So we kind of know who we're talking to. Who here works in Salt Lake County? Anyone? Everyone is kind of
9 folks.
all over the stage?
Yeah, we have quite a few.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful. I mean, we're talking Salt Lake County for the most part, well, exclusively Salt Lake County, I guess. So please ask questions. We have Salt Lake County. Complicated. We could change that, we would. But, we're kind of told by the state and by the county what we can do and where we go and do those things. So we get it, you know, it's complicated. Has anyone even heard of the different shelters in? Okay. Do you find you work mostly with individuals or families or everything, all of it's helpful? All of it? Okay, cool. And then my understanding is that you are all in the role of mostly advocates for people that are in the criminal justice situations, that are in the criminal justice.
As well as community based, like in our domestic violence shelters.
Oh, okay. Great, okay. So hopefully this will give you a little insight into how to navigate some of those, or at least what to expect if you have someone that is experiencing homelessness. So Mike is gonna talk about the shelter side stuff. I'll talk about the housing side stuff. And then please ask questions. This is about what's on. So.
All right, thank you. I guess to start off by show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the road home? Okay, so good majority of you. So I guess I want to start off by just introducing the road home, who we are, who we serve, and some of our core values. And so.
Yeah, let me make sure you're on the right mouse here. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So who do we serve? We serve individuals and families experiencing homelessness. And I think it's a little bit of a layered answer because, you know, in my mind, I think lots of our team would agree that we serve some of those vulnerable people in the community. You know, individuals who are experiencing domestic violence, individuals who have been unsheltered for many years, presenting with, you know, high needs, high acuity needs. And so we really serve the community's most vulnerable people in the community. Our mission is to help individuals step out of homelessness back in the community. And the way we do that is the moment someone comes in the shelter, we want to make that transition from shelter to housing as quickly and safely as possible. Those shelter pieces I'll speak to are really a conduit into the housing program that Cerise will speak to later. And then up here are our core values. Again, could talk about these for days, I feel like, but what I really want to emphasize here is that the center of all our programs, whether the shelter side or the housing side, all of the core values are really evident in the way we operate, how we structure our programs, the way we train our teams, how we engage with our guests. And those are always at the forefront of everything we do. Whenever we consider opening up a new program, we want to make sure that there are systems in place to train our teams to have those core values with our guests, how that's fulfilled. And like I said earlier, the road home is broken up into two different aspects, the shelter side and then the housing program, about 50% split. We have several emergency shelters here.
oh, is it?
Oh, there, thank you.
As I just find lost the map. There you go.
So our shelter programs have been broken up into a couple different. There's single shelters, the family shelters, and a couple of new programs that have come online recently. So our first one is the Young Women Resource Center. That is a dual population shelter that serves 200 men and women, 160 men, 40 women. Right now, with the overflow season, which is from October to April, the coldest months, we increased capacity by 25%. So we opened up an additional 50 beds. We prioritize those beds for women. So that number right now is about 90 women in the shelter. You know, what's unique about this shelter is that the reason it is dual population is because, you know, prior to opening, what we realized as a community was there were many people that were unsheltered that were not going to shelters because they had a partner they were with, so that they had, you know, spent a lot of time being unsheltered with, they were resistant to coming to shelters. So here, this has been a need in the community that we've recognized. And then we have our men's shelter in South Salt Lake. That shelter is kind of like a resource center. It serves 300 men. And then right now they're at increased capacity level of 375 men. Those are our two single shelters we have, GMRC and Park. And then moving over to our family shelter, renamed the Connie Crowder Family Resource Center a few months ago. That one is unique because it only serves families. And they serve 85 families at any given time, and they're always at capacity. It's about a capacity of 300 people in that program. The way funding works are a little bit different as far as case management. Those are some unique differences between our singles program and our family shelter, just some of the teams that are on site. Our newest program is our medically vulnerable people program, and that program has been open for roughly over a year now. And that program was meant to serve a unique demographic that we noticed in shelter, really folks that were aging and experiencing different medical needs. This shelter prioritizes individuals with chronic illness that are 62 and older, or have ever had a chronic illness that, maybe a congregate setting isn't the best. And by congregate, I mean, our single shelter, and family shelter, it's, 30 bucks to an open space, right? You're sharing space with 30 other people. The MVP program is a repurposed hotel out of Sandy, and those are all non-congregate settings. So it's 2 people in a room, that has a capacity of 165, and there is quite a long wait list for that. And what's, again, different about the MVP program versus our other shelters is that it's a referral only. That program is opened up in conjunction with Forestry Clinic. I'm not sure how many of y'all have been to Forestry Clinic, but there's a referral program we do there where if there is someone who meets those demographics, they're filling out a referral process at Forestry Clinic, and our team kind of screens and makes sure that person is a good one. Good question? Oh.
So like, could someone older than, I guess it's 2, with extreme arthritis, would they count as they're unsheltered?
Yeah, so,
Would that be,
yeah, so.
I should call, and you guys would tell me your shelter?
Yeah, so, there is a referral link, and we can chat over as far as what that looks like, but, the age, yeah, so they're 62, they don't need to have a chronic illness, but the requirement, if they are not 62 or older, is some sort of, medical vulnerability that would qualify for this program. Does that make sense? Yeah, and so that's one of our new programs there. And then last time we have a statement in the fall, I-by-night shelter. That's kind of one of those, when you think about a standard shelter, is opens up at 7 p.m. And then it serves 65 individuals. We got 15 women, and the rest of the beds are for males to go. It closes up at 7 a.m. each day. That way, they can prepare for the next day. And normally, again, is one of our overflow shelters that opens up from October until April. This past year, just because of the need of beds, we'll discuss later, that program, along with other overflow capacities, also stayed open for the summer. So that's been a really great resource we've had for the community, that shelter's been able to stay open through the summer, and it will stay open until April. And then really just want to go over how we operate our shelter program. So we are a low barrier shelter. Our objective is to get rid of any barriers when people come. We don't ask for identification when you come in, right? Just a name. There's an intake process that happens. We don't ask anything. We want to make sure that people are coming to us, they need a bed or get. And then moving forward from that, we're a housing focused shelter. And what that means to me is that everything we do in our shelter programs revolves around housing, right? That the way we engage the client, the type of services we offer, the different community partners we have on site, even the way we decorate the building is somehow geared towards housing. And that we're trying to make that transition from shelter to a stable housing situation as quickly as possible. And then housing first, and then some reasons we put a little more about housing first. I think that we prioritize that individual's housing above anything, right? Like that, if we're not checking to say, hey, are you, we're not having them agree to these or agree sobriety before we move into housing. We're not saying you need to go to treatment before we start working with you. And so we really want to prioritize that individual's right to self-determination. But along with this, while we're housing first, we're not housing on. If a guest says, hey, I really want to engage in treatment before I start talking about housing, we will 100% vote with that person and connect with the resources. First step housing. Validating. We want to make sure we're supporting that individual in their journey. Because we're the experts in ending homelessness, but that person who's unsheltered, is the expert in ending their homelessness, right? They know what's best for them, and we want to support them. And the last one is trauma-informed care, and I think that lumps in just the way we operate, low barrier, being housing focused, housing first. That we recognize there are a lot of folks that come from again, just different areas, folks that are maybe fleeing domestic violence, individuals who've been unsheltered for years who present with mental health illness, and we will always train our teams to be trauma-informed in the way we approach them, recognizing that our clients experience mental health crisis, and we want to be trauma-informed in the way we engage, the way we provide services. And then again, some of our different team starter programs throughout all of our programs are housing advocates. They are running the building 24/7. They engage, they're the first point of contact with our clients in their crisis. They help them, again, direct to the shelter, kind of day-to-day activities. We have a housing focused case management team on site as well. their sole purpose again is to move folks from shelter into housing. They're very creative the way they do that. Again, limited resources. I can't speak highly enough about all our teams and how they operate. Facilities team, again, keep the building clean. There isn't any maintenance concerns in the building, fixing a bump here and there. The water heater vendor, fixing those items. We have a kitchen team. We have a kitchen team in some of our programs. At Yale, for example, we serve 3 meals a day, 365. So the team does an incredible job there. And then we have a housing navigation team that is also works in conjunction with our case management team. They kind of take that one handoff when client is ready in the housing, they're engaging in conversations with landlords, helping that person read the lease. So, and then some of our community partners, we work with, Utah Community Action. They do our intake process for us across several of our shelter programs. Forestry Clinic, they have a clinic on site to meet the immediate needs of clients in the shelter. They also refer to the brick and mortar locations, solid. Department of Services, they are there daily, help individuals kind of seek employment, navigate that road with kind of triggers on our clients. And then we also work with local law enforcement to help support different clients in the community. We really work heavily with their social workers as well, trying to connect with different resources when someone is experiencing crisis and helping staff some of our clients who have the highest needs. And then Shelter the Homeless, they own several of the buildings and we partner with them. They on the landscaping, different maintenance issues, and so they've been a great partner with as well. And so, I know here we're talking about kind of the intersectionality of victimization and homelessness. So again, really, we don't spend too long here, but really, just kind of definition of what homelessness is, just a lack of stable and supportive housing. It can look a lot different ways. Maybe someone is hopping from place to place, but doesn't have a stable place to, lay down their head at night, and then victimization is really just someone who's been victim of a crime, whether that's sexual assault, sort of emotional abuse, fleeing domestic violence. And then in shelter, what I want to acknowledge here is that, either of these can happen, right? I think that, for example, someone may experience homelessness because they're fleeing domestic violence. And then on the flip side, if someone is experiencing homelessness, they're now at higher risk for being victimized. And we'll touch base on that right here. Some studies showed that roughly 40% of people who are unsheltered, whether sheltered or unsheltered, are at a higher risk of being the victim of a crime. And here are several risk factors in here. I'm going to cover a couple. But one that I really want to highlight is the lack of support available. I think most of the folks that we serve don't have a support system, right? Well, when someone comes to shelter, they're staying in a shelter, there is a lot of conversation that happens before someone sets from the shelter. With Utah Community Action, one of the programs they offer is a diversion program, and it's seeing, hey, does this person have family members they can stay with? Do they have someone they can go live with in a different state? They will buy that bus ticket and send them over there so they won't have to experience any homelessness. So people that come into shelter, that really is their last resource. So I guess to acknowledge it, they don't have that lack of support, someone that can fight it, someone offers support when they are victims of a crime. And then also just being turned away from shelter. The lack of beds is something we always emphasize because it's true. We track the data every week between the different single shelters. So Geraldine, which is operated by DOA, Volunteers of America, the Pamela Atkins Research Center, and then GMRC. And what we found out is that on average, we're averaging about 200 plus instances every week where someone's turned away seeking a bed because there's not enough space there. And that includes our minis program. And so again, those are really sobering numbers for here that we don't have enough beds. So I think just highlight some of those that those are pretty critical, factors why someone is at higher risk of being victimized. And then again, there are several barriers that we've noticed that people experience while being unsheltered or in shelter of reporting victimization. Number one is there's lack of vital documents, right? One of the very first things we work with someone when they come in the shelter is accessing vital documents, getting that birth certificate. That's one of the first things we do because that is a key piece to getting out, right? And so my thought is if someone, who's unsheltered or in shelter reports a crime and they don't have any vital documents, it's kind of hard to have a follow up. There's not really that contact information. And then also, I think a key thing here is history passes with law enforcement. Many folks that come in the shelter or, folks who come through an outreach team, they, are not comfortable engaging with law enforcement because of some of the past, or some of the current laws around camping, right? Some of the enforcement around camping that they are not comfortable engaging with law enforcement. And we do our best to help bridge that gap, but that is something that, takes a lot of time to do. And so that, I think out of all of probably is the biggest area. You know, if someone has outstanding warrants, but they've just been a victim of a crime, they may not feel comfortable going to the officer. So we work pretty closely with our homeless resource officers in the shelter and help connect folks there. That's another way to reduce victimization. They know that that officer is there to help that client, and that, you know, we're out there outstanding warrants. They'll connect with different resources as well, but they just want to help that person report that crime and feel safe. And again, we talked about mental health illness in the shelter. That is something that many of our clients who have maybe been unsheltered for years now experience a lot of mental health illness, and they are, again, resistant to coming to shelter. So now that person who's out in the elements on the street is at risk of being victimized higher than someone who's in shelter. And then again, lack of available resources. You need to be in a stable place to call someone, right? To have that resource to go to. And when someone is moving around consistently, we just find that really difficult to track, and folks aren't able to make that connection with the law enforcement officers, built rapport with our team. So those are just some of the barriers we're seeing in shelter. And then again, some of the ways to reduce risk of victimization, right? We acknowledge that those are all barriers that present from our clients. So on-site, we have an on-site security team that's contracted with Shelter for the Homeless. They do a loose TSA style security where there's a mag to come through. They will check their background weapons, you know, make sure there isn't anything that can harm anyone coming into the building. Right, you know, there's work tools that will store folks that, you know, work construction, et cetera. But we want to make sure the building's safe, so they go through, our teams and their team will do rounds out the building to make sure that anyone can go through and chat with them at any time. If they're looking for anyone having a medical emergency. We also respect our clients' privacy. You know, there's a bed bathroom report that we have, and we just make sure that everyone coming into the building is a client there. No one is allowed to enter the shelter without having a bed. You know, at times we'll have different folks asking for someone. We will never share with someone that client is staying in the shelter unless there's an ROI. We want to make sure we're protecting that person's privacy. I'm thinking of folks who are fleeing from a partner, from domestic violence. You know, sometimes that person may come looking for them, and we will never tell someone is staying in a shelter. We also have client expectations that we have, you know, making sure that we're respecting people's past trauma, being in shelter, different life experiences. Again, it's just really an expectation that they'll be safe for themselves and others. They will harm each other. And then, you know, if something does happen, we do have an exit protocol that we do, and we'll make sure that we do that pretty quickly, and we'll refer them to other shelters as well, just to make sure that person is still receiving services somewhere. And then we're always working to connect people with mental health resources. We have some really cool programs coming up. You know, we're really working a lot on bridging that gap between mental health and homelessness. We connected with several community partners, Mental Health Utah. Our team actually has a crisis, an LCSW clinician, and she goes through and kind of just helps staff some of our higher acuity clients and finding ways to navigate some of the different conversations and how we can, you know, bridge that gap together. Which brings my last point that really, you know, when I think of the ultimate way to reduce the risk of being victimized, it is housing. That is a safe place. That is your place to be. And again, all of our teams are consistently working to get that person in the house, right? And that's, I think, what I really want to touch base on before passing over to Lisa. That is the ultimate goal in all our programs. That is how the person goes back to all those different needs can be met with that person in a safe and stable environment.
All right, housing programs. I'll run through this really quickly. There's a lot of stuff on the slide, all cool. But I don't want to put you through that. But so, a lot of words on here, but I'm going to go pretty quickly.
The cost of this hires are in PDF version is
Oh,
drive.
there you go. Okay, so challenges, obviously, finding housing, income. I don't know what it looks like across the rest of the state, but in Salt Lake City, I believe last time I looked, in order for a 2-bedroom apartment, you need to pay about $27 an hour. Yeah, so right there. So many. We have seen significant increases in homelessness over the last few years. Obviously, income, affordable housing, two big things. Tech fees, parking fees, internet fees. Do you guys see this a lot? It's amazing. Are there any property managers? You admit it if you were. It's amazing the ways that fees get added on. We have a lot of subsidies. Subsidies can pay rent, they can not pay tech fees, parking fees, you don't have a car, you're still paying this fee. I mean, there's some fees that don't even, you can't even tell what they are. You're not. Then you try to ask. Yeah, I don't know. No, so the fees are coming up to more grant funding, some of them. Right, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, reasonable, right? Yeah, we are. Well, what we find is, so one of our shortest term programs is called Rapid Housing, that's like, 1 to 4 months usually of assistance. First of all, who's gonna be able to start making $27, right? To take over your rent there. We do what we can with that, but if a lot of times someone will sign a lease, and not know what the fees are. All of a sudden, you get the lease, we've had this happen, we get the lease to our housing navigation teams. Which is good. Then they go actually sign the lease, and there's a beautiful fee that's snuck in there with some extra fees. So before you know it, this person is in their housing program, we're paying 30%, or they're paying 30% of their income, their home's helping with the rest of it, it's good. 2 months in, they owe $500, $600, $700, and then they're facing it. Is Bradbury House what? Is your Bradbury? Yeah. What we have started doing is we have, as part of our housing navigation team, we have someone going to the properties whenever possible to find the lease with. the property. So there's an advocate there. Why are you pushing this? I do. Okay, so we are trying to go back, make our presence known and specifically talk through those things and ask those questions and ask for a summary, like, okay, what's the rent? What are the fees? What is it? So we're trying to approach it that way. Are you? Well, we're trying to. Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah, yeah, two things, right? Yeah. What we'll do. Should I say this or no? So, sometimes what we'll do, if I still do it, is, I know, right? Oh, who's on? Yeah, who's online? That's what I know. We will try to go to, we will say, okay, we're gonna charge this much in fees. What if you just do the rent amount? Add $100 to the rent amount, as long as that still meets the HUD, reasonableness and stuff like that. Well, some will do that. The smaller property, they'll wrap it in and they'll be like, well, I'm getting the same amount of money. What do I care? So, yeah, right. Okay, paying utilities. That's another hard one. A lot of times, if you are experiencing homelessness, you might have debt from a place that you were that you had to leave or you got evicted from. Getting the utilities turned on, all of that stuff. So we're, again, trying to put that on the front end stuff. We do have some grants that will pay over years, get all money in utilities, specific to the families usually. Families, friends, and pets. Homeless. The culture on the streets is one of survival, right? And if I have an asset, it's a benefit, but it also can be kind of a target, right? So if I get housing, I have the people that I live on the streets with. Those are the people that have kept me alive. So whether it's biological family, street family, any of that, anything, doesn't matter, that's still your people, right? And then you get a place, and we see this a lot in our housing programs, you get a place, everyone else comes to your place. Because you have a shower, you have a kitchen, you have it, and it's a generosity thing, it's a survival thing. But that does get some more hopes in the phone. All of a sudden, there's other people that are on the lease, they're staying there. No judgment. I mean, your parent came, you get a place, and then just pulled outside, like, you know, so pets, you know, we try and go the BSA route whenever we can, but I don't know, if I have the eventual place without my pet, I don't know if I do it. So those are some things that are hard to get into. Supportive housing services, this is, I don't just say case management, it's any support we can offer. Not housing only. I think, who's heard of housing first as a policy that it's been a driving force for years. But it doesn't mean housing only. I think that's a misconception, that if we put someone in housing, we're just letting them do whatever, we're paying their rent, they don't have to do anything, there's no special responsibility. Well, that's where the support comes in. It is a subsidy and case management. So all of these programs include some form of case management, some level of case management. It's a progression from very minimal to very intense. So oftentimes we'll have someone move from short term to long term.
I think I might have moved your mouse.
Oh, there. Oh, okay. Rolling this thing around. I don't know.
It was on the other screen.
Housing is, like I said, like we were very housing focused. The only way to recover from trauma is for having safety, right? You guys all know that. We have, right now, we have over 250 families in our housing programs and 250 individuals slash adult, like couples in our housing programs. We have two teams, one does families, one does. And that number is going to fluctuate, so that's not a yearly number, that's a today, as of today, that's how many people we're serving. There you go. Okay, now we're ready. All right, for families, referee housing, like I said, short term, scattered around all over the valley. We're working with private landlords, the leases between the individual, the household, and the property manager. We're providing some subsidies, and they're paying whatever their portion is to the property manager. That's gonna be very light touch case management. Coming in, what school do your kids need to go to, what do we get kids registered? Here's where you pay, here's how you pay your rent, here are the visitor rules, that kind of stuff. PSH, permanent supportive housing. Now, nothing's ever permanent, it's all, a lot of our stuff, most of our stuff is unfunded, so that's what's fun, right? But permanent, we use that in a longer term sense. So we're gonna be over a year on that, sometimes we'll be year after year after year, depending on the need. Again, this is with property managers in the community, but we're there more intensively. Weekly, if not, definitely monthly, if not. Sometimes multiple times. Single site permanent supportive housing. This is specific, so PSH and single site, someone must have a disability and experience chronic illness. So, you know, chronic illness, that's 1 year, great. For 4 episodes in 3 years, totally 12 months. You take a whole course on that. Either the PSH, so permanent supportive or the single site. Rapid doesn't require that. Okay. The others do. Yeah, it's a high definition of homelessness, but basically of homelessness.
Not aggregate, all in number.
So you can do either 1 to 2 years, 365 days documented, or go back 3 years, Micah, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 years. And if there are different episodes over those 3 years, but it totals 12 months. So maybe a quarter, 3 months, 4 years ago, 2 months the next time, you know, as long as the time adds up to 12 months.
And when we see disability, mental disability, well, like maybe schizophrenia, on medicine, has person that doesn't, and then.
This definition of disability is a lower bar than like the Social Security or those definitions. So this can include substance, include mental health issues, like mental health, it can include,
Any of those?
anything, just about. So our threshold for this is not terribly high, but it does have to be done. So there does have to be LCSW, not information. Who has heard of Palmer Court? Okay. So I was at Palmer Court since 2009. So it's been open for a while. The building's pretty hammered. We are hoping to have some new modifications. I can't talk about it yet, but it's very exciting. It's a long time coming. So it is a giant hotel. It was actually, this would stay there. Done. So yeah, pretty cool. Might be haunted in the northeast corner. Oh my gosh. So there, it's 200 apartments total, about 50 of those are families. So the other, it was a remodeled hotel. So the family units are free. So one main room and better money expected. That, the property management is the road home. So utilities are included. So we're knocking out some of those barriers. Most of the time, someone has gone through rapid rehousing, they've gone through the permanent supportive housing in the community, and those things have all not worked for one reason or another. So we're targeting folks for that. That's like the highest level. Case management is on site. The caseloads are hopefully lower. We all have that. Questions on family stuff? Case management here looks like all of you guys to help out with some funding stuff. It is connecting with school liaisons. It is connecting with Medicaid, food stamps, all of those things. Access to resources, whatever that looks like. There's no one model. There's no, gotta have this by 3 months, gotta have this by 6 months, gotta have this by that. It's very individual and it is very like, yeah, so if they're in one of those properties or, say at the. Yeah, Mark, yeah. Do they still do the school bus related to their original school or they're now in? Great question. So McKinney-Vento liaisons? Yeah, so they are eligible 1 year after they've left homelessness, 1 school year. So if a kid moves into housing, rapid rehousing, I think they still count as transitional, so they can be eligible longer term. But for the other ones, if a kid moves in, let's say in August, school year starting, then they will be eligible for that full year of school. If they move in January, middle of the school year, they're only eligible until the end of that school year. And then beginning of next school year, no. But like at Palmer Court, we do things like have a little van, we drive the kids to school, that kind of thing, pick them up from school, that kind of stuff. So we're very connected to those liaisons for sure, yeah. House 20 outreach, we do have 1 outreach team. They work with about 20 of the highest users of services. So these are the people that the attorneys, the cops, the EMTs, the ERs, they're saying, we don't know what to do. Then we have team 2 case managers that we could have, right now, we could probably have 60 or 70 referrals in. If we have staff to do it, but it's team of 2. We should have a picture of them up here. That's what I should do next time. So they are able to follow them regardless of their housing status, which is unique. Most of the other programs is while you're in housing, the housing case manager works with you there. But they are following people, prison, jail, shelters, Utah State Hospital, anywhere. Anywhere they are, they will find you. They asked me this morning to buy them bullhorn. I will not do it. But okay, I guess some of it. Oh, here's housing for individuals, very similar. We don't have rapid housing for singles, but we do have shared housing. So if you have a roommate or a friend or someone that you want to move in with, we will give you deposit, first month's rent, and you guys can take it from there. We don't have a lot of people use them, so we'll let anyone you know that's single and a single person in shelters, let them know. Michael will personally get them connected. That's the shared housing. So that's where individuals will move out. You know, kind of like you do rent a room in a house or something like that. It's like that, but we will help you get that first month's rent deposit. Yeah. Same things, from supported housing there, single site. So the single site ones we have, Hardport, the Magnolia, and the Wendell. Those all have the same model. Hardport's just the only one we face. All right. Done that. Who has heard of the ACES study? Okay, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but if you want to go into the ACES study, I think that really gives a good context for. Okay, we recognize, and that's why we have instituted trauma-informed care as one of the principles. I know that's like a fun term to use. We try and make sure that we're doing everything under that like truth and law. Because of this. So the ACES score, for those that might not have heard it. 10 questions. It started actually, Kaiser Permanente, so Dr. Kaiser Permanente, and weight loss plan. Looked into kind of why people are struggling. And they connected a lot of it to childhood trauma. So they did this research study. It's 10 questions. It is just stuff like, did you ever have a parent that was incarcerated? Did you ever see a parent physically abuse another? Was there violence in your home? Those kinds of things. So there's 10 things. The general population has, so an ACE is, you said yes to one of these questions, okay? So, the population of people experiencing homelessness, if you've got 4 or more ACEs, you're at higher risk for illness, substance abuse, all of the things, okay? So you have one, most of the population will have one, right? But if you hit 4 or more, then there's definitely increased risk there. So, 89%, 1 or more, 50% of 4 or more among cases. So we know, and you know this number is low, we know that at least half of the folks coming to us have experienced severe childhood trauma. And that is going to impact them. It's going to impact brain development, it's going to impact social interactions, it's going to impact all of that stuff. So 3 to 5% of the general population have 4. So to me, that is very hard. This is why all of our case management is definitely focused on trauma-informed care. We know that if we can house families, then we can stop some of that trauma and some of that cycle. If we house families, we've got support, we are able to get them connected with medical care, we're able to get them connected with school resources, all of those things, then we can help stop that cycle. I think that's it. We can stop the cycle of childhood trauma that can lead to adult homelessness, housing. We can get their house. If we can get them houses and provide us with. And I've seen that like 24 years. I thought I was going to be in Utah for 1 year. I was originally from Alaska, and Utah is warmer. It's way too cold here. I look at my phone sometimes, I don't know what it is, but I look at my phone sometimes, and if it's colder in Alaska than it is here, I'm like, okay, I make the right life choices. If it's colder here than Alaska, then I question my life choices. So, yeah, I would encourage you to look at the basic stuff and research tons of stuff out there. That's, jam through that. Yeah, that's the first two. Okay, yeah.
Okay. I love the presentation. It was a little fast.
It was fast. I know. But we went over our little.
Under the slide, community partners, Utah Community Action Forestry Clinic, DWS. One of them helps with work, and I didn't catch which one it was.
I'm part of the workforce.
That's DWS. Okay.
Yep. Yep. They also are the department you go to for food stamps and Medicaid, that kind of stuff.
But those people need social, right? For that, or do you not know?
Social for.
Social security.
Workers with workforce.
No, so we have someone on site in every shelter has called a housing resource desk, HRD. And there is like a workforce specialist there, they work with individuals. Social does help, I know they always try to find some sort of employment, again, that's more of I don't know, we'll have to start specific.
Okay, and then, how we operate under that slide, housing first, shelter to housing as quickly as possible. And, I was asked, how do you do that? How does that?
Okay, so read the question again.
Housing first, under that, you said we're trying to get shelter to housing as quick, unsheltered to housing as quick, sorry, shelter, so being in a shelter to housing as quickly as possible. And I was like, how?
Yeah,
I
well,
do that.
yeah, well, before answering that question, I want to start with, and I think part of the reason why it's the research is we want to make that, transition from shelter to housing as possible because, that can have a trauma impact on individuals in shelter. And the way we do that is that, layer question. I think our team really great, for example, we have, all shelter meetings where our team is meeting with everyone in shelter saying, hey, maybe it's talking to someone who's been there for 1,000 months. And hey, what's the way to engage with this person? Is it someone on the facilities team engage with them, get to know what they're like, maybe finding out they haven't found them. That happened recently where there was someone in shelter for the past year that, one of our members, not on a case management, we found out this person had a family member because they were the language barrier. So they were talking and saying, oh, we have family member in a different state. We're able to get that person out through diversity. So I think there's just a lot of different ways we do that. There's not really one set way, but it's just relentless how the conversation happens.
So let me add to that. I don't know what slide I'm gonna use. Anyway, so we talked about some of the barriers to housing, one being vital documents, right? So that is what the teams at shelter are doing, is digging and finding vital documents, helping to order vital documents. Do you guys use the fee waiver form in Utah? So to get an ID, if they were born in Utah for a birth certificate, then we can refer them for those things and not have to pay the fee. So trying to get those vital documents is a lot of the labor that the case managers are doing. There's a process called CTG, community triage. So for all of the housing programs, including the rapid programs, the PSH programs, all those programs, there's a group of providers from across the county. So you guys know what MIMS is, Client Track? It's a database, it's a home tracking database that we use. And so if anyone goes to a shelter, basically they're in the state. So the shelter case managers, the housing case managers, Volunteers of America, Forestry Clinic, any of the partners that basically touch homeless services can refer someone into that system, and then they're triaged for whatever the next stop will be. So once we can get the vital documents, get the chronic homelessness verification, get the disability verification, that's what case managers in housing are trying to do, is it's expungement. They can start working on expungement. So identifying whatever the barriers are, chip away at those to get them into that CTG process, so that then they can act after that.
And I kind of want to add, go back to your first question, how we make that process really better. We're always looking for new partners to work with different ways. Something we did recently at Federal College here at the GMRC is we've actually partnered with the driver's license division where we meet with them virtually, and they're able to reissue Utah state IDs. Something we see a lot is that, that transportation piece is a huge barrier. So on Wednesdays, every other week, we'll meet with them, we'll have folks, the way the fee is waived, and that's been a huge success. I think, last time we had 8, 9 people get IDs for that program, and that is the first step, like we said, of getting it, right? Reducing the recommendation. So we're always looking at ways to bring resources on stuff. EWS, something I think, we can speak to, Forestry Clinic, always having, we have valid behavioral come on site, but always trying to more resources.
You mentioned something about buying a bus ticket, after, some discovery, and then I think just now in the last few minutes, it's called a diversion funds.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? And who was over that?
So that is community action. And when someone comes to the shelter, right, there's an intake process. So 7 in the morning, individuals come in, we take their bed. And part of that conversation before anyone steps in the shelter, they're always having different conversations, our team as well. But again, if they say, hey, I have someone, my car broke down, I was passing through, and I've been here for a couple weeks, right? They will buy a bus ticket through UCA, and they will send that person to whatever location they're trying to. We send those to Colorado, different states, Washington, so that's what that program is.
Yeah.
And that's the same scenario, say someone that's had 1,000 nights and someone finally talked to them,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, I have family in Arizona. I just have been stuck here for over 1,050.
Yeah, and yeah, so to your point, yep, same thing. They find out we will be working to UCA. And really, one, in shelter, there's different levels, we house all the most local folks, but also one thing that happens is there's some people come inside, just, for a couple weeks, might touch base them, and, have that right direction. And that person will be right there. And so there's a lot of people that move out that we are, consistently doing diversions with, or reconnecting with the family. Maybe they need some time to reconcile and things with their family. So there's a lot of, good partnerships.
So tell me guys do the security. Is it dangerous in there? Are there camps happening in there? What's going on there?
So Mike will answer from the shelter side, and I'll answer from the housing side.
Yeah, no, so from the shelter side, right, we have again, on-site security, inner security. Like I said, there's a loosely model TSA style, and then in the building, right, our teams, they're going to constantly doing rounds checks through the building, right? If there are anything that occurs, we also, something that's unique, we work pretty closely. We have a assigned unit to our shelter that we're working with anything that us, but the main thing before we get to that point, we're always working with mental health resources. I think that's a great one. We'll call out if someone who's experiencing a mental health crisis. And the way we reduce that is, again, trauma informed care, right? We're consistently doing trainings with our teams. Our teams become great de-escalation. I think they do a lot of different jobs. They do a lot of, in my mind, a lot of mental health work with people. And so when stuff does, occur, our teams are there pretty quickly and they are able to de-escalate 99% of the situation. And when something does happen, right, we do have an exit policy. We again, go back to expectations. We ask that people are safe to themselves, each other, and then we will ask for a year for a short period of time.
For housing programs, it's a really interesting question. Home Report, for example, started in 2009, not much violence. Over the last 2 years, I would say, that has escalated. And I think we've seen that in a lot of programs on the streets. On our outreach teams, and, it's more violent on the streets. My personal take on that is, if you are able to access a shelter bed, there's a safety net. It's not perfect. Folks are not comfortable in that situation, but if you are able to access a shelter bed, you are given some level of safety and security. If you are camping out, if you are unsheltered, you have safety risks. I have seen escalation in predatory behavior for someone who's not experiencing homelessness, but they are preying on someone who is trying to take over their apartment, trying to steal their social security cards, those kinds of things. We do see more and more of that. So we have to keep up our security. So Palmer Court now does have 24-hour security. We have 2 security guards going around the building. And most of what they do, 90% of what they do, are getting people out that don't belong there. Not the residents. It's the people that are coming in. Some of them are just coming in for a place to stay. Some of them have a person there, but they're folks can have guests. You just check them in the front. They can stay a certain amount of time. They can't move in, they can't live there, but they come visit. And that's an important piece of recovery is those connections, right? But we have seen an increase of that, and we've had to really hit our security budget.
You guys report your cameras and stuff?
Oh,
In the facility?
Oh, yeah.
We do.
I think Palmer Court has like 40 cameras in it or something like that. So yeah, we also collaborate with PD. We have a liaison that we work with. So it's one person that's a point of contact that we can staff cases with. It's, they've come out 15 times on this individual. How would you like police to handle it? How would they like us to handle it? What can we do together to collaborate? Sometimes we'll say, this person called, and we have some folks call, they have some paranoia, they'll think someone's in their room. So they know, okay, if Sarah calls the front desk, and we will go do the check. We will go have our security go and check to save the time. So we work together in ways like that.
And then what they want to have too was in all the programs together with the security meeting where we'll meet with PD and what's going to go over staffing, clients have high needs and how we can support them. What are their are social workers, different programs within the services. Maybe someone is, way domestic violence there, we're trying to with South Valley Services, Lack this here, so there's a lot of coordination.
With being very protective.
Yeah.
So we find a balance there. Other questions?
Is there, do you guys oversee the warming centers as well, or is it just primarily those?
We have,
Very solid county for warming centers.
there are a few in Salt Lake County, none that, again, that we like specifically operate, but some things we do, for example, at St. Denny's, I know last year, one of our coldest nights, we're at capacity, going back to that number of beds this year. We have people just rotating through like 15-minute increments. Hey, a group of like 10 people come in, warm up, rotate out, and that's what I'm doing. So we've got agencies as well. Someone's cold, it's 20 degrees outside, and it's the middle of the night. We'll say, hey, you know what? Come warm up for a second. We'll give you a blanket, right? And maybe they're coming back in. So we do some, some warming stuff that way, but just with capacity restrictions, we're not allowed to kind of stay in the lobby long term.
This was, someone else oversees warming.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I'm not sure what those facilities are. I'm not sure if you see it. I know, I'm not sure if you see it. They not see it.
It's very patchwork. Yeah, those are, yeah. Yeah, I know the churches and some that's,
Yeah.
or, yeah.
We just expand capacity, like Michael was saying. Temporarily, that is, more permanent than temporary.
One thing though, with code blue, how many go on with code blue? Okay, so code blue essentially is that when it hits 18 degrees with wind chill, the HRCs are allowed to expand their capacity additional 10%. So for Gale, for example, with 200, we go to additional 20 beds, and that's just in the lobby, right? But also additionally, additional sites open up. The second method church opens up. Unsheltered Utah is the one that operates that. So there are things we're doing with other community partners to help coordinate some of those coldest sites. So there's a lot more resources now in the community now that we're going to have.
A lot of that, and someone told me once, less than 20% on the streets is times being drug related, the majority is like mental health. So your question is for people that are in shelter, will tend to get scared, you took out it doesn't have because of that here. And I just was wondering if I have a place to go to look for that, so I can educate and raise awareness in our community.
Like, that there is a need for.
Well, not what these folks are.
So
They're
there's
actually
other
looking for help.
Yeah, or like there's that misconception.
Yes.
Right.
These are all dramatic,
Yeah,
not mental health, nothing else, and so that's.
There's the conception of you're lazy, you just don't want to work, you're choosing to be homeless. I can tell you, I've never met a person that really wanted to be homeless. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of barriers, there's a lot of history there. Stats wise, we. Okay. Wait, time on that. Our next. Every time you got a broke on my head. Yeah, yeah. Well, and people are using substances for good reasons sometimes, like the resiliency, last flood, the resiliency of our folks is amazing. I wouldn't probably be alive if I had some of the experiences that our folks have experienced, so. Yeah, this, you're a drug addict. We all know that there's more than that. But yeah. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for all that you guys do and are doing.